The detonation of a tactical nuclear bomb, the last koala living in the wild. Bout of unrest has erupted in the wake of suicide blasts at NUS bases. The landfill inferno in the remnants of Atlantic City continues to rage on. 35 people were pronounced dead at the scene and another 20 remain in critical condition. According to the latest report, as much as 20% of the continent is no longer suitable for human habitation.
In Night City, the news tells you everything. City's gone, water that'll kill you, millions dead. It's all there, out in the open. So why, after hearing all that, do you feel absolutely nothing? No matter which news source you look at, they all describe a world that is collapsing. Entire regions are being flooded, cities are reduced to lifeless shells, millions of people are displaced, and basic necessities like food and water are becoming increasingly unsafe. These aren't isolated incidents, they're constant, overlapping, and global. And yet none of it is treated with urgency. Everything is delivered in the same calm, controlled tone, as if these events aren't catastrophic disruptions, but simply the expected state of the world. The news doesn't attempt to hide how bad the world is suffering, framing catastrophes as something normal. And that's by design. Over time, you stop seeing Night City as the problem, because compared to everywhere else, it doesn't look so bad. Through the deliberate normalization of collapse, the news reframes suffering as something universal, something unavoidable. And once everything is equally broken, nothing feels worth escaping. If it's bad everywhere, why leave it all? In a system controlled by corporations, this is the first layer of control: containment. Keep people inside the environment, keep them from imagining alternatives, and most importantly, make sure they accept the world as it is, rather than question who built it. But once that acceptance is secured, the manipulation doesn't stop there, because if people can be made to accept the problem, they can also be made to consume the solution.
Attention Charter Hill residents. A recent study commissioned by All Foods has shown hazardous levels of lead and cadmium in your tap water that pose a significant risk to human health. The Night City Department of Water Management has attributed any elevated toxicity to obsolete municipal piping, though has made no plans for their replacement. Drinking bottled water remains the safest way to reduce your risk of waterborne illness. And remember, it's always cheapest at All Foods.
On the surface, these reports look like exactly what you would expect. Here's the problem, and here's the fix. But the news never actually answers why these problems exist in the first place. Instead, the focus shifts quickly to the alternatives that megacorps provide. Toxic water, here's a bottled alternative, conveniently sold by a corporation. Food safety becoming an issue? Here are some synthetic products, created and distributed by the exact same people responsible for the conditions causing the problem. The news isn't guiding people towards fixing anything, it's guiding them towards surviving within it, through the products of megacorps. Cyberpunk 2077 in general is a world built on extreme corporate greed, so it's no surprise that's leaked into the news networks. But what makes it effective is that the bias isn't obvious, it's subtle. The allegiance between the news and the megacorps isn't in direct statements. It presents itself as objective, balanced, and informational, when in reality it's carefully structured to reinforce the very systems it appears to report on. Even the people being controlled, people who would likely resent these corporations if they saw the full picture, are made to believe the news is still neutral. If you look deeper into the angle each news source takes, you can see who they support and who they don't. N54 News tends to reflect a more NUSA and Militech-aligned perspective, while WNS leans closer to Arasaka's influence. On the surface, they appear to offer different viewpoints, even competing narratives. But in reality, they are both operating within the same framework of corporate control, just serving different power blocks within it. The result of this isn't true opposition or journalism, but controlled variation. Different angles of the same manufactured reality. As you progress through the game, just after the heist mission and Subaru Arasaka's death, if you pay attention to the news, you can see this play out.
We return to this week's biggest story, the murder of Arasaka Corporation CEO Saburo Arasaka. The longtime head of the Japanese megacorporation was reported slain on the premises of the Konpeki Plaza corporate hotel while attending a family gathering. Saburo Arasaka's son, Yorinobu Arasaka, has cast blame for his father's murder on the company's rivals, although he has not yet provided evidence supporting this claim. According to market analysts, the CEO's death may have been a desperate attempt to divert attention away from the company's ongoing internal issues.
Night City is still in a state of mourning following the death of Arasaka CEO Saburo Arasaka. Flags on all city buildings were lowered to half-mast, and all major public events have been postponed until further notice.
What these broadcasts show is that WNS, who is Arasaka aligned, frames Saburo's death as a moment of collective mourning, emphasizing loss and stability, while N54, who is Militech aligned, suggests internal conflict, hinting that something deeper might be at play to hide Arasaka's falling stock values. Both versions are presented with confidence, and both feel complete in their own way, but neither fully reflects the truth. Each network filters reality in its own interests, shaping the narrative to benefit the powers behind it. Information isn't being delivered neutrally, it's being positioned. Over time, this changes how events are understood. Instead of asking what actually happened, viewers are guided towards how they should interpret what happened. This also extends beyond major events, and into how people themselves are portrayed. One of the clearest examples of this is how violence is framed. When corporations are involved in a conflict, they are almost always presented as victims or defenders. Their actions are justified, their losses are humanized, and their responses are framed as necessary. But the opposing side is treated very differently. Groups like nomads or independent actors are rarely given context or identity. Their motivations are ignored, their perspectives are removed, and they are reduced to simple labels: threats, outlaws, and aggressors. By stripping away any sense of individuality or reasoning, the news eliminates the possibility of empathy. And without empathy, the audience is far more likely to accept whatever narrative is being pushed.
In Arroyo, a terrorist group dubbing itself a trade union has been eradicated. These self-proclaimed representatives of Night City's working class attempted to organize a strike, which could have led to financial losses in the millions. Remember, if you come across these so-called union representatives, immediately contact the NCPD or the appropriate corporate security forces.
In the news report you just saw, workers aren't described as people pushing back against exploitation, but as terrorists that pose a threat to economic order. At the end of the broadcast, Arif Iqbal appeals to the everyday Night City citizen, advising you to contact corporate authorities if you see these supposed union workers resisting. What emerges from all this is a system where context is constantly being removed, a version of reality that feels complete on the surface, but is fundamentally hollow underneath. And over time, that hollow version becomes the only version most people get access to. But the most effective part of this system isn't the bias, it's the volume. The sheer amount of information being delivered at any given time creates a constant sense of overload. Disaster follows disaster, story follows story, and there's no space to process any of it properly. Instead of encouraging deeper understanding, the flow of information discourages it. This leads to a kind of passive consumption, where people absorb what they hear without engaging with it, simply because they can't keep up. And in that state, you become far more reliant on the interpretations you're handed. And the most unsettling part, the system doesn't even need to lie to make that happen. In most cases, the news is actually telling the truth. It openly reports on environmental collapse, corporate conflict, and societal breakdown. It acknowledges the scale of what's happening, but it presents that truth in a way that completely strips it of impact. Because the only guidance available comes from the corporations. They produce the problems, they provide the solutions, and through the news, they shape the narrative that connects the two. It's not just control over resources, it's control over perception. That is ultimately the function of the news in Cyberpunk 2077. It doesn't exist to inform people in a meaningful way, and it doesn't exist to help them understand the system shaping their lives. It constructs a version of reality where everything feels inevitable, where every crisis is expected, and where no outcome feels like it could have been avoided. And when reality starts to feel like that, distant, overwhelming, and unchangeable, the natural response isn't to engage with it, it's to escape it. And that's where brain dances come in. After the news conditions you to accept the world, and corporations position themselves as the only way to navigate it, brain dances become the final step in that cycle. They don't solve the problem, and they don't even pretend to. What they offer is something far more effective: distance. A way to step out of your own reality just long enough to tolerate returning to it. In a world shaped by corporate interests, this kind of escape functions as a calculated extension of the same system that created the conditions Night City citizens are trying to avoid. The world is presented to you through carefully framed media until it feels unavoidable. Then, the oh-so-loving megacorps offer you ways to endure it, products to manage it, and experiences to forget it. This is what braindancers are positioned to be. In the eyes of the corporations, they're a release valve, providing their workers with just enough relief to keep being productive. It is a truly perpetual cycle that is meticulously planned by the megacorps. Sure, the crime rate will be high, as we see in Night City, but for the average person, the illusion of corporate protection still holds. Security forces, corporate messaging, and controlled narratives create the sense that order exists, that someone is managing the chaos. This is the system that corporations have built, a system designed entirely for corporate gain, one that presents itself as something protective, almost parental, while quietly shaping every part of your reality. It doesn't just control what you consume, but how you think, how you perceive the world, and what you believe is possible within it. And when you live in a world like that, where reality is controlled, solutions are sold to you, and even your escape is part of the same cycle, there isn't much left to hold on to. So people turn to the only thing they have left: their dreams.